Welcome to another episode of Osteo Talk, where we talk about bones and the animals of the bones. And today, as you can see, we're actually not talking about any bones in particular. We're going to be talking or going over the U.S. federal laws concerning animal parts laws, as you probably gathered from the title of this video. So, some of these laws apply only to the United States, and anyone wishing to import wildlife remains here in the States. Others are international treaties the United States has agreed to join. Now, I will say I am not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice, and when in doubt, contact your state fish and game department. Now, I'll put a link in the description to the website where all this info is from, which is the Green Wolf. Also, there will also be a link to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service with the updated March 2020 Migratory Bird Treaty Act, the full list of all the birds on that list that are protected under that law. So let's get started with the first item, which is going to be the MBTA, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. It was passed in 1918, and the countries affected are the United States, Canada, Mexico, Japan, and Russia. In the United States, almost all wild birds are protected by the MBTA. This includes many songbirds, raptors, and waterfowl. Possession of any part of the birds or their eggs or nests is illegal under the MBTA, even molted feathers found on the ground. You can't prove that you found it instead of ripping it off of a bird you just shot. Next on the list is going to be the Marine Mammal Protection Act. This law was passed in 1972. Country affected, United States. This law makes it illegal to possess marine mammal parts, which includes polar bears in the United States. There is still limited trade in antique parts that predate the law. Please also see the Fur Seal Act of 1966, which explains some more things, which we will get to in a minute. Next up is the Endangered Species Act, which was passed in 1973, and the country affected is the United States. The Endangered Species Act is probably the best known among the general American public. Debates about including or excluding species and the effects these decisions have crop up every so often in the media. Next item, we have Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act, or the Bgpa. This law was passed in 1940. The country affected is the United States. This is the infamous eagle feather law. Occasionally, there will be an article in the news about someone possessing eagle feathers, killing eagles to sell the feathers on the black market, and in one case giving them to President Bill Clinton, a dream catcher decorated with eagle feathers. There is also debate among Native American communities about whether this law violates the right to practice indigenous religions, as eagle feathers are important culturally and spiritually to a number of indigenous peoples here in the United States. Next item is the Wild Bird Conservation Act. This law passed in 1992, and the country affected is the United States. This law, among other things, prevents the mass importation of wild birds from out of the country for the pet trade and other purposes. Most of the birds covered under the Convention for the International Trade of Endangered Species are also covered in a link on the website that has a full overview of the WBCA. If you want to know more about that, there is a link to that. Next item is Fur Products Labeling Act and Fur Products Identification Act. These laws passed in 1951 and 1998, and the country affected is the United States. While these laws primarily apply to fur garments over $150 in value, they do cover the misrepresentation of furs. The FPIA seems to have been rolled into the Textile Products Identification Act. Next item is Dog and Cat Protection Act. This law passed in 2000. Country affected, United States. This law makes trade in domestic dog and cat fur illegal. It is particularly important because these furs are often misrepresented as rabbit or Chinese wolf and any of a number of other misidentified or fake animals. Next on the list is the Fur Seal Act of 1966. This law passed in 1966. Country affected, the United States. And this law prohibits taking and trade of fur seals and sea otters and their remains, with exceptions made for North Pacific coastal natives. Next on the list, Truth and Fur Labeling Act, passed in 2010, country affected, United States. An amendment to existing fur labeling laws. This removes exemptions for products that only includes a small amount of fur, but provides an exemption for fur from hunted or trapped animals and certain crafted or other small business items. And okay, so this is kind of an overall kind of law, I guess. It's the Interstate Wildlife Violator Compact. Years past various, and it affects most U.S. states. This is an agreement among the majority of the states in the U.S. that residents of one who violate wildlife-related laws in another state may be considered for the intents and purposes of the violation to be residents of the state in which the violation took place. So that pretty much covers all pertinent information, all pertinent U.S. federal laws regarding animal parts. There are other laws, and these laws do go into more detail if you're interested in more in-depth information on these laws. Again, there is a link to the information and also, again, to the March 2020 list of protected bird species.